Hi, folks, and welcome to today's Security InfoWatch webinar. This is more like a panel discussion today. We're going to have an in-depth conversation regarding the recently released Security Business Magazine 2024 State of the Industry Report. Now, this Security Business Roundtable on the State of the Industry research was done by Editor-in-Chief Paul Rothman and the staff of the security group. So Security Business Magazine's annual State of the Industry report is a comprehensive research survey of the industry's top security systems integrators and consultants to assess the state of the business and the security services marketplace. To put the survey in context, our staff received more than 140 qualified surveys from integrators around the country, with the majority of respondents coming from California, New York, Florida, and Illinois. Respondents show that almost 50% received most of their business from commercial clients, and just over 21% have received businesses spread over both commercial and residential, while the encouraging number is that 17% plus have strong ties to the IT technology end of the business. So what do the integrators tell us? The report's in-depth look at the state of the security integration industry is based on insights from top integrators, and despite past disruptions, 2024 continued the sector's strong growth, with private equity fueling acquisitions and confidence remaining high. Key challenges remain, though, persisting in particular in workforce development, as firms struggle to attract and retain talent. Meanwhile, AI-driven innovations are reshaping technology offerings and driving business growth and customer satisfaction. Conducted ahead of the U.S. election in November, the survey also highlights industry concerns over economic uncertainty, with 87% of our respondents citing election outcomes as a significant geopolitical factor. So the panel discussion and our two experts are going to discuss some of the following topics that were in our report: industry growth, revenue trends, RMR profiles, insights into growing technologies and markets, and business challenges for the industry. I'm Steve Lasky. I'm the editorial director for Security InfoWatch and our magazine Security Business, Security Technology Executive, and Locksmith Ledger International. I will be your moderator for today's discussion, which is sponsored, strap on your seatbelt, by NAPCO, DMP, DoorKing, Spico, Viking, Telguard, Camden, SecLock, Traca, and COPS Monitoring. We'd like to thank them all for participating, not only in this, but also in the print version of the study. This presentation is both live and interactive, so you can ask questions at any time via the Ask a Question box in the presentation window. We will answer as many of these questions as we are able to during the Q&A portion of the webinar. If you have any technical difficulties during the webinar, just type your issue into the Ask a Question box, and a member of our tech team will assist you. If you are running pop-up blocking software, you will need to disable it to view the webinar. In addition, it is recommended to close down all other applications for better performance. For convenience, the presentation will be available on-demand viewing within 24 hours of this live event. We encourage you to ask questions, like I said, by using the Q&A tool on the left side of your screen. If we're unable to get to your questions during the web event, we'll do our best to reach you afterwards. As a reminder, you may also qualify for CE credits following this webinar. If you would like to receive a certification document for attendance, please remain logged on for the duration of the event. You will automatically receive your certificate via email within 24 hours. Finally, today's webinars, including the audio and slides, will be archived on our site for a period of 6 months. And we will also be posting this on the Security InfoWatch, our new YouTube channel. So without further ado and housekeeping duties here, let's meet our experts here. John Nemirovsky is the Chief Operating Officer for Kent, Ohio-based Sage Integration. His experience includes serving as president of SST, where John grew the company to $140 million in yearly sales with offices through the U.S. and Canada. In 2009, John became the senior vice president at Stanley Security Systems. During his tenure at Stanley, John oversaw wide scope projects that included several turnaround initiatives, operational changes, sales and market expansions, and customer acquisitions. He managed an 800 million P&L and a team of 13 managers with a dotted line to more than 500 team members. In 2017, John took his management experience and entrepreneurial endeavors as president of CGL Technology. Matt Barnett is the chief executive officer and president for the PSA Security Network. Matt has extensive work experience in the security industry and is currently serving as the CEO and president of PSA, where he's been since November 2022. Before this, he held the position of the CEO at the same company from 2021 to 2023 before joining PSA Security Network. Matt was worked with HID Global from 2018 to 2020, holding various roles, including VP of North American Business Unit, Physical Access Control Solutions, and Vice President of Mercury Global Accounts and PIV Solutions. Matt also served as president of Mercury as part of HID Global from June 2016 to December 2017, and had earlier experience during his tenure at AMAG Technology, where he held multiple leadership roles. So let's get to the discussion. Now we've got a ton of slides here. So some we're gonna race through, some we're gonna look at, and we're gonna just start. I figured a good place to start is at the beginning. So we asked our security integrators and consultants how's business and what the outlook for business is in 2025. Positive, almost 70%, which was great. Neutral, 26. So, and only 5 negative. So, in an economic landscape that some really have questions about, we see industry growth. We're seeing some that think this is a recession-proof industry and see unlimited potential for creative companies. So, I'm going to start with you, Matt, since you've got a whole stable full of systems integrators. The folks you talk to, what's the outlook, and do you agree with these projections?
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. Appreciate being here. Second year in a row, so thank you, and looking forward to hearing from John as well. I generally look at 2025 as a positive. I don't know, 69, almost 70% positive. That seems a little bit higher. I do think it's going to be a better year than 2024 overall, although John and I just had some economists at an event we attended, a PSA event we attended recently, and they were a little bit more negative of the overall economy. But I think when you look at the security vertical itself, I do think it's positive. And I don't like the term recession-proof. I think I would prefer it be recession-resistant. We've certainly seen an impact when there is a recession, but it tends to be, a very short tail. The security industry goes into recession last and comes out first. Just based on the nature of the work we do in construction industry. So, John, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I see 2024 was a banner year for a lot of systems integrators. I see 25 continue on that way with a number of drivers. I think first, the back to work initiative is really hitting hard throughout all the Fortune 500 companies. Now everybody's coming back to work 2 days, 3 days, 5 days a week from these buildings that had been corporate facilities that had been abandoned. So I see a tremendous pickup in work to get those buildings back in orderly fashion. I also think the number one concern in those buildings is workplace safety, right? The workers coming back want to feel safe. They're concerned about violence issues. So I think integrators are going to be challenged to come up with solutions for weapons detection, gunshot detection, things along those lines. I think with a new president in place, I think what we've seen in his past regime, we'll see a lot more drivers, a lot more compliance drivers drive business. So in all the regulated markets, I think we'll see an increase in integrators business from pharmaceutical, utilities, chemical, petrochemical, healthcare, all the regulated spaces. I think we'll see increases in. And we've, if January's any indication of 2025, we're off to a ferocious start. So looks to be an exciting year.
Great. I think well, Steve dropped and came back in. I'm just going to advance it to here, John. And one of the things I appreciate about your company, Sage Integration, is the culture that you have developed, you and the team have developed over the last so many years. And the number one challenge for business here is hiring and retaining qualified employees. So I'd like your perspective. Certainly, hiring has been an issue for a number of years, going back to pre-pandemic. But I think you have more control over retaining than I think a lot of companies want to admit to, right?
Yeah, I think, hiring continues to be, oh, glad Steve's back. Hiring continues to be, a top of the list challenge. Finding and recruiting young talent, new talent into the industry continues to be a challenge. Retaining, I think, is something you work hard for every day. Creating that great employee experience, rewards for certification, helping them get involved with social responsibility initiatives and give back to the community, recognition programs for a job well done, help you keep these attrition rates or turnover rates sub 3%. And I think that's a big deal, right? You don't, after you've trained somebody and certified them, you want to make sure they stay happy, they're challenged, they're rewarded when they do well. So keeping what you've already built is important, and working hard through talented recruiters and networking to build the team is equally as critical.
Guys, let me just throw this out. I mean, are most of the issues with employees leaving and your brethren having trouble retaining good techs, are they going to other organizations within the industry, or are they going just out of security altogether and getting into something else?
In most cases, Steve, I see them staying in the industry and moving on to another integrator for maybe $1 more an hour or some type of increase. I think the three of us have been around this long enough. It's usually the direct management over that associate that drives that. Are they being given chances to advance? Are they being challenged? Are they given chances to be certified? Are they being recognized when they do well? Most of these are moving around the industry. The bigger concern is we gain years and years of experience. We need to be filling that pipeline with new people coming in want to be security technicians and system engineers and project managers and service technicians and CAD operators and project managers. So
we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that a little later in the discussion about training and retention and what we can do. So let me move on to the business outlook. Again, threats. If anybody runs a business, you always got to do your SWOTs, strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats. I know I've been doing those for 40 years. So from an integrator's perspective, there are two big things that kind of stood out, and these were different than last year, which I thought was interesting. Macroeconomic factors, including inflation, interest rates, and increased wages. So, John, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. If you've got fixed price contracts for your clients, your technicians are still going to need either some type of across the board raise or a raise because they got certifications, and you're in some cases not able to raise the price of your contract. So you've got some margin compression there potentially. And that leads to a challenge, and you start to talk about interest rates, right? Interest rates are higher. So if you're not running a fluid business that you're paying, that you're cash positive and you're into credit lines and things like that, then you're going to be making less profit at the end of the year. So I think running your business tighter as an integrator, making sure you're invoicing every day, making sure you understand your min maxes and inventories, making sure you understand your inventory turns, working with great partners that are giving you extended terms, like we do with PSA, I think helps be a profitable, successful integrator and get through some of these challenges.
Matt, what is your group saying about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think they nailed it with this question. I think inflation, a lot of business owners and business leaders in this generation haven't really had to deal with inflation. And so that was a new challenge to the business.
Right.
I think one of the things I've noticed the most, and as John was speaking to, going back to the companies you're doing business with, you're getting products and services from about terms and what those look like to help you with cash flow. But the other part is I see a lot of integrators afraid to raise pricing, and if especially you get product increases, they have to be passed on. You should not be consuming that, because that's really gonna have an impact to your bottom line. So can't be afraid to raise prices. You need to have those conversations with your customers. You also should go back to your suppliers, like John mentioned. We're giving extended terms to our membership, and really helping them with that cash flow.
Guys, one of the things the new administration is threatening are tariffs to some of our largest trading partners. And number three, folks are worried about increased product costs. Number one, do you think the threat of tariffs are real? And what impact do you think they'd have on the security industry?
Yeah. So Steve, we did take that as it will be real, and as we forecast that, we're going to hire 40 new associates in 2025 into our business. They're going to need laptops. They're going to need iPads. They're going to need phones. Right. So we did our best with some of Matt's help, and as he talked about managing cash flow with extended terms, we went out and we purchased and procured laptops, so we don't see a 25% increase when it's time to buy 40 new laptops for the year. Small things like that we've tried to do to get out in front of what we think are going to be impacted by tariffs.
Yeah, it's interesting because we went through this in the security industry during the great supply chain issues. There was a lot of increases, and there were some tariffs introduced back in 2000, 2001. Mostly those are all still in place. So I don't see those being any more significant on the security side. And you would hope that most of the products that you would be installing, at least in the North American market, are being created in Mexico or a TAA friendly country, where you're going to see the issues of products that's coming out of countries like China. That we have an AV division as well, and a lot of those products are still coming out of China. Right. Monitors and things, and those are going to probably be impacted but the most. And so I hear about it less on the security side, because I think we've already go through this cycle, and it's something we got to pay attention to. As Johnny alluded to, it may be not core security products, but products that you use to run your business.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. This next slide, I'm just going to kind of gloss over this. I just thought it was a nice visual. What are the outside influences to your business? Last year at this time, 76% of our respondents said product shortages. This year, only 24%. So obviously, we fixed the supply chain issues. COVID's not an issue anymore, so that has helped there. But 87% said that the U.S. presidential election was something that concerned them, whether they are for or against the administration. They just didn't like the uncertainty. So I thought that was an interesting area. So let's talk some numbers here. Here is gross revenue 2024 versus last year, 2023. And we're seeing that, again, there's a nice increase. 37% saw a significant uptick in gross revenue, slightly up. So on the whole, you had 60% saw positive growth, and 21% were even. So down and significantly down were not things that were going to impact anybody. So I think that's great. And one of the integrators says we're fortunate that we were still seeing growth year over year. And Matt, are you Are your folks seeing growth year after year? And they pretty positive about their gross revenues this past year?
Yeah, I think as we talked earlier, and it seems to be, answers all across the board, and a lot of that has to do with the vertical markets the
Sure.
integrators are in, and geographically where they located. The West Coast has, in our view, has been really hit hard the last 12 to 18 months. Whereas, in certain verticals, if you're doing data center work right now, you're probably up 37% year over year. The K through 12 market has its ups and downs. College and university, where really commercial real estate is still a big problem, as John mentioned earlier. We can't have people back to office enough when it comes to security, the security industry, and the health of the security industry. So while maybe not popular with a certain contingent of workers for our industry, we need people to show up to an office in order for that office to require the things that we sell. There's a lot of commercial real estate that's sitting vacant right now. So we're hoping for a recovery in that in the next few years. It tends to be a fairly long cycle, but we'll see.
Yeah, that would be great to see. John, what about at Sage and some of your cohorts?
Yeah, so in 2024, we were up 18% revenue and bottom line over 2023. So we saw our clients continue to spend and grow, and we acquired some new clients throughout the year as well. But we were so bullish in the year, Steve, we launched a new division called Sage Fence. So we felt confident enough in the economy that we could launch a whole different business unit to take to market. And in that first year, we grew that business from 0 to 10 million in revenue. So we still feel really good about the business performance, both in both perimeter security and security technologies.
Very good. All right. So gross revenue sometimes is a little misleading, but this next number, we're talking gross profits. And again, you take this for what you will. Again, one of our integrators said that business has been robust and thinks it's going to continue. Significantly up 20%, slightly up 34%, even 31%. And again, only 15% said down or significantly down. Explain a little bit about some of the discrepancies between the profit margin and the gross revenue and how you look at these statistics.
Yeah, I'm happy to go first, Steve. We put all kinds of KPIs around these, right? So as an integrator, your revenue and margins are being driven from three areas. The technology products we buy through distribution partners like Matt at PSA, that's one. So how much gross profit can I get buying it from Matt and reselling to the customer? My second area is subcontract labor. How much can I buy a subcontractor to run cable for me and mark that up and charge to my customer? And then the third is my direct labor, my technicians, engineers, and project managers, and making sure they're 100% utilized, meaning their time is charged to a project or to a service ticket every day. And we get to the size we are, each 1% we would miss of utilization costs us about $166,000 a year. Wow. So being 100% utilized is critical. Running your projects and closing them out on time and on budget. So for those that are significantly up, I'm not sure what they were doing in 2023, but getting to slightly up is a goal. And we were slightly up last year because we keep tweaking our formula. We keep trying to work with partners like Matt and others and other technology partners that are sponsoring this call to buy better, register projects. And there's really only three levers to pull here. I guess the third would be if you're doing a lot of strong estimating up front, so the bill of materials that you're billing are actually what you're selling and closing out. Right. But there's only a few levers to pull around gross profit margin. And once you get tight with those, trying to tweak those each year to get them up, 1%, 0.5%. I don't know how I'd significantly grow if somebody's got the answer, it's on this call. I'd love to hear how to grow my gross profit.
I don't know how many businesses out there were significantly up in profit margin. Matt, if you got that, you can solve that mystery. Let's hear it.
Yeah, no, that's that. If you can do it, that's a Houdini trick that you can sell for sure. As John mentioned, you make an incremental. The interesting thing I found in this industry over my 30 plus years is, if you ask 10 integrators on how you come up with your burden labor price, you get 10 to 12 different answers.
Mm,
So I think a lot of that, how are they calculating their gross profit margin? It should not be up for debate. There's a gap accounting way of doing it, but we see that the question is answered differently. So that is something that should be paid. And John said a lot of it comes down to utilization. I'm amazed at how many integrators don't know or are only guessing what their utilization rate is of their technicians and staff. And that could be, that could be a game changer if they can get that rate up. I've never heard of anybody as high as John, but up in the 90s is certainly achievable and should be a focus.
right, right. All right. Our next question. These are projections for this year, and we asked, what were some of the primary threats to margins? And again, it's the economy, stupid. It may not be the price of eggs, but it certainly is the cost of fuel, inflation, and interest rates, and also increased employee wages. But I mean, realistically, how do you get away from not having those impact you as much as these seem to be concerning our respondents? I mean, 68%. That's a pretty good number and a pretty good worry point. You think these are pretty accurate, Matt?
It seems seems a bit high to me, to be honest with you. Again, it's nothing anybody can do about the economic factors, but how you react to those economic factors is what really separates the companies. And again, some of this goes back to having those discussions with your customers that
Sure.
you have wage inflation. You have to be able to pass on those costs in order to run a viable business,
Right.
and those are tough. The interest rates, again, had a hedge against higher if you're borrowing money as to run your company. Working with product companies or distributors or buying groups that allow you to have better terms, that's going to be a big way of hedging against interest rates.
Right.
You certainly can fill up a warehouse with a product, but then that could bite you later on. So the good news is that these factors tend to affect everybody across the board, so nobody's being singled out. But how you react to them, I think, makes the difference.
Yeah.
You
John,
know,
they
you
really
see,
don't. They really don't spotlight any vertical or any
no,
practice.
but maybe to springboard up Matt a little bit. He was with us. Matt was our distribution partner of the year, and he accepted an award last week on behalf of PSA. And he sat in on one of our sessions with our project management team on over under billing.
Right.
And I had our VP of Finance, Marcus Leghart, run that session, and he gave an example to the team and he froze a block of the month, which you really can't do with over under billing, but to make his example impactful, he did that. And then on that particular day, we were $3 million under billed. Now, if you looked at it the next day, we were, 100,000 under billed. So, but he did it to make impact. Well, if you're an integrator and you're $3 million under billed on your projects, do you know approximately the interest is going to be you're going to pay on that $3 million? $26,000 a month. So how many months in a row do you want to run under billed? So interest rates are a big deal, but it's a time for an integrator to run their business tighter, understand your over under billing, understand your schedule of values, bill accurately, but bill faster. And that's how you eliminate this. And that 26 grand is a lot of money for hey, maybe I'm a couple days under billed. Well, don't be a couple days under billed. And that's why I asked Marcus to provide an impactful presentation. And obviously it's an exaggeration, right, to be that far under billed, because you wouldn't have that much work all at one time. But he made the impact. So was this slide 68%? So integrators are so busy doing so many things. Sometimes getting that invoice out on time is not the highest priority. I'm saying with interest rates rising, it should be.
Yeah, I mean the Fed has held interest rates this last go round here after dropping them a couple of times here. Do you think the Fed needs to drop rates again to get a correction in the economy and help our side of the industry?
I don't, Steve. Matt and I were at a conference, John Mack's conference,
Right.
In New York, Imperial Capital, and there is so much dry powder that wants to get into this industry without any regard to interest rates. Right? They've got money sitting in funds, and
That's great news.
maybe Matt remembers the exact number, but it was jaw dropping to hear how much money was sitting on the sidelines wanting to invest
$1 trillion.
in security technology. Yeah,
Really?
$1 trillion.
$1 trillion overall, but a big portion of that is going to be funneling into this industry. So this has become one of their favorites, and so we'll see a lot of that activity, which I know you're going to get to in here, Steve. But yeah, I think John is pointing out, that the cost of money is high right now. So anything you could do to deflect that, whether it's through billing or getting better terms. And I don't see the Fed rate. I mean, they're concerned about inflation. I don't think we're going to see a next drop in the next quarter. So we'll see how that plays out. I think they're more concerned about inflation right now. So that'll be a bit of a risk.
I totally agree with you on that. All right. So the battle cry of any dealer or integrator, your recurring monthly revenue, or RMR. Again, trends are very positive, 25%, significantly up, 37%, slightly up, 28%, even 10% below the Mendoza line. What do the RMR numbers reflect, Matt?
Well, I think it's taken a long time in this industry for people to really get on board with RMR. And I think it was really propelled by, what companies are selling. Their multiples are much higher based on, what their RMR level is. So I think, and John, you can correct me if I'm wrong because you spend a lot more time on this than I do, but one of the single most defining factors for how much you can sell your company for is based on that RMR number.
Right.
And so I think that's been it. The technology's moved on. Almost every product company that comes through now is selling some type of RMR solution. If it's not the whole product line, it's a portion of the product line, and that's just the future. The more in the industry gets on board with that, the better off financially they're going to be in the future.
Yeah, and John, that you never really saw RMR attached to technology initiatives in this industry, not in the 35 plus years I've been in, until the last several years as we've got more into digital technology. Yep. How do you assess that?
Yeah, so I just taking a step back. Bill Bozeman's been screaming about this for 15 years. Yes, when Matt took over at PSA, he formalized it and partnered with Chris Peterson and the Vector firm and put together a program for integrators, a 6-piece program. You understood what your program is, your terms and conditions, your menu of services, how to pay commissions, and we followed that playbook. And we went from a mere 400,000 of RMR when we started that to last year we crossed $1 million of RMR. In 2025 we'll go over $2 million in RMR. Wow. And there's a number of drivers to it, and one has been our menu of services, Steve, just as you alluded to. There's more technology that's subscription based. Sure. 10 years ago you didn't have single user log on from Secure Things being sold in a subscription model, or extended storage with Tiger surveillance. So all of these new technologies are leading to great recurring monthly revenue drivers, weapons detection, gunshot detection. All of these things our clients are ready to buy these in subscription services. So as the integrator, what a great thing to have enough RMR to cover your payroll and your general expenses.
Yeah, if you can live off the RMR nut, you're in great shape.
That's right. Great place to be.
So next slide really talks about the percentage of customers that are fueling your RMR. And I think these are probably a little more in line. More than 75% is less than 20%. 50 to 75%, 20%. So 50% or more, you've got 39% of your customers that are fueling your RMR numbers, and less than 50%. So, I mean, I think these are a little more reality-based. I don't know. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, again, the definition of RMR, I think
Yeah,
most people include service contracts in that
sure.
definition. And man, if you're not selling service contracts, I mean, that was a wave that the security industry went through 20 plus years ago, and still a lot of companies probably not focusing enough on selling service contracts. And that's just bedrock of selling RMR. And then you have all the new technologies coming about. So, really focusing, if you don't have the products that have that as a default option, there are ways to making some more traditional products. You can sell them in that type of area, but really, I think focusing on products that are already built to do this is the wave of the future, especially all the cloud and solutions that are now in the market. That's
Sure.
really where most integrators should be focusing their energies.
John, you look at the additional question that's here is that, do you offer additional sales compensation based on RMR? I was a little surprised. No, 61% said no.
Yeah.
Surprising. Yeah.
Yeah. So we pay a pretty traditional plan, Steve, on project revenue based on gross profit margin.
Okay.
And you may find it a point higher or 2 points higher than some integrators and a point lower than some others. But the RMR driver for us with our sales team is we pay 8% of total contract value.
Okay.
And we've been doing that for the 4 years that I told you we've grown our RMR.
Right.
And that's a driver. If you wake up and you sell Matt, $100,000 worth of mobile credentials today, every January 30th, you're getting another check for $8,000. So you've built an annuity for yourself as a salesperson. And I know I just gave a real simple example, but it could be, one of the sponsors I saw today was cops. It could be, some type of monitoring. It could be video monitoring. But whatever it is, that's an annuity you're building for yourself. So I think the number one driver is you build that sales plan to drive the behaviors you want.
Yeah, very good. If I'm a salesperson, I'll give the RMR to my company, but I'll take the RMI any day of the week. So reoccurring monthly or yearly income, I think things that. All right, so project volume. And I mean, these are pretty close to last year, but it still, I think, reflects a pretty healthy place that our industry is in. I know, we were doing these back post-COVID. I mean, one of the biggest issues we had is that there were backlogs of projects, but you couldn't get product. And then once we kind of got out of the COVID mess, and integrators were doing hands-free and touchless, the volume of security projects improved, but then it kind of leveled off here. What do these numbers show you, John?
Yeah, I would agree with them. We talked a couple slides ago about our revenue being up about 18%. Our backlog's up just over 21% year over year. So these numbers really are nicely in line with what we see. And it depends, everybody's got a different ideal client profile. Our average project is $58,000. And you say, wow, John, that sounds low. I thought you did big projects. We do. But the clients also call us to add one reader for $3,000. So it brings the project average down. It's still a project. Somebody's got to run it. Somebody's got to order it. Somebody's got to bill it. So our mix comes to about 58K. And we see both in numbers and in volume that being up just about 21% year over year, which kind of fits right in line with our growth. And that's why we feel so positive with a bigger backlog coming into 2025.
Matt, I'm going to throw this slide at you. This is the backlog of security products, and significantly up, 17, slightly 28. What are you seeing on this?
Yeah, and I think this obviously dovetails into what John was just saying. I think the number of projects is one thing. The actual size of the projects is another thing. And what we've seen is, this industry largely is project based. There's a lot of run rate business, but what makes and break a great year for most integrators is the big jobs coming to fruition. And we've seen a slowdown on those mega projects, if you will, over the last year. So it's good to see that there's what I would consider a healthy backlog. My concern would be: are those small to medium sized jobs? Or are they large to jumbo sized jobs?
All right, let's jump to employees. Kind of move this along here. So, how many new employees are folks going to add this year? Or how many did they add last year? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we added 32 last year. We're budgeted at 40 this year.
Excellent. So you're in the 34% percentile. Excellent. That's a good thing. Compensation and benefits. How has your company changed compensation benefit plans to retain employees? And the big nut is increased entry-level salaries and remote work options, flexible scheduling. Now, I've got a family member who is a regional guy with Honeywell, and except for project days or meetings, he works pretty much out of the home and travels to jobs if he needs to. They were doing a lot of things down at Savannah River. So are you seeing work from home benefits going away as, again, the new administration is looking for folks to go into the office? And do you think that's going to be a perk anymore? And is it compatible with our industry?
Matt, you okay if I run first? Or you want to
go run for it.
Go ahead.
Matt's going to laugh at me as he did in May of 2021 at PSA Tech. I was on a panel there, and he said to Mike Rudo, myself, I think maybe Andrew or Christine Lanning was on the panel. He said, John, when are you going to bring your employees back to work? And I said, June of 2020. He goes, you mean June of 2022? I said, no, we brought them back June of 2020. Remember, 71% of our people are in the field anyway, so they never got to work from home.
Right.
We built our offices out so it was safe to work. But we came back to work in the office June of 2020. We didn't lose any people because of it. When I look at compensation and benefits, we've got a great VP Human Resources, Lori Hudnall. She does a great job in getting better benefits for our employee. We're keeping the costs under control, but rising costs of benefits are a big deal. Sure. I think incenting your employees for what you want to do. So whether that's utilization, we talked about, well, you hit those utilization rates. How about a 10% quarterly bonus? Hey, you hit your over under billing or your project closeouts. Maybe it's a 10% quarterly bonus. And I think you keep them incented. I think you run recognition programs and reward them publicly when they do things well. I think you build responsibility programs, so you're giving back in each community they serve. And I think all those things together keep a collective to keep your employees happy.
Very good. Matt, you want to add to that?
No, the only thing I'd say, Steve, separate from what John mentioned, is we're in the life safety industry, right? Security is life safety. We're protecting critical infrastructure. We're protecting kids in schools. We're protecting the Federal Reserve banks. This is important stuff that this industry does, and I think we have to have a little bit of a different attitude when it's about working out of an office.
Sure.
You're not creating advertising for Madison Avenue here. We're doing important stuff, and I think that kind of gets lost sometimes. So I would take a little bit different approach to it. But as John mentioned, you need to run the company and provide for your employees, and there's different ways of doing that.
I agree. All right, so we said we would get to training and development, and again, we're looking at, on average, how much does a company invest in employee training initiatives on an annual basis? So, $100,000 to $500,000, about 22%. You guys can read those. Look at it looks like the majority don't spend a lot on training, and I find that rather shocking and rather sad. And again, I want you to break it out. Now, we didn't really break it out. Is this training for certification for technologies with companies you work with, or just training on installation and other things? John, how do you read these results?
Yeah, it's scary low is how I read them, with lack of responsibility for training and certifying. And with all the complicated technology stacks that are facing us today, we need training and certification more than ever. We spent a little more than $300,000 last year, and it would have been more if it weren't for great partners like Matt, where I get 12 cents on the dollar back in training bucks. Right. In one single week event, I saved $44,000 in training costs. So I would have spent north of $350,000. But it's when I talk about it, Steve, it's not just training. If one of our employees gets their certified security project management certificate through SIA, they get a $3,500 bonus for that. If they get their cyber certification, their SICC through SIA, they get a $3,500 bonus for that. So we wrap all that into our training cost. But whether it's certifications on Secure 9000 or on Milestone or Linnell, these are critical certifications, and you're going to put these technicians and system engineers and project managers out in front of your customers. I believe they need to have that training and certification. It's better for them. It's a better client experience, better employee experience, and more rewarding.
I agree. Matt, anything to add on that?
Only that, the only number is probably lower than this in the security industry is how much integrators spend on marketing. So, you want to keep your employees at your company. You need to be investing in your employees, and that's kind of a no-brainer. And not to toot, the PSA, we've got a learning management system we offer to their integrators to help them with help them with career tracks and provide both hard and soft skills training. So hopefully integrators are out there looking for these. There are lots of resources available to train that aren't necessarily that expensive, but they should be investing in that.
Toot away, Matt. I just wanted to show this here. Where do you prefer to get training? And 52% overarching were direct vendor certification classes, which again I don't think is a surprise, and then 35% trade shows and conferences. All right, so here we're winding down. We're talking about technology and what kind of technology is front and center. And I still will never forget having conversations with Frederick Nielsen at Access, probably 20 years ago, when he talked about this new thing called IP cameras being at the tipping point of dominating the industry. And obviously it's there. So IP cameras overall, and then video management software, storage, analytics. So everything that's cloud-based, everything that's AI-based is certainly what's running the numbers here. Either one of you got any issues with these numbers?
Be just about what I would expect, right?
Yeah, that's what I figured. Okay, so we'll get to access control. Card readers and badges, pretty standard. I mean, 47% for access control management software is definitely a lot higher than would have been years, just 5 years ago, as with the cloud-hosted and SaaS-based access control. But again, I think this shows that the access control industry is becoming a lot more technology savvy and is looking to provide data that's not only going to show who's going in the door, but where they're going, why they're going, and what their intent is. So anytime you can take that incoming data and turn it into relevant operational management data, that's what we're showing here. Intrusion detection, same thing. We're seeing a lot more active assailant and threat detection things as well. Is there anything new on the intrusion detection scene that you guys are seeing that maybe we should look for?
John, you mentioned
I,
video intrusion detection, right?
yeah, I think we'll start seeing more of that location of the future where instead of that not that we're ever going to do away with the intrusion panel, but in some ways your video, your store of the future. I've worked with several clients that have started to build out stores of the future
Sure.
where the surveillance system is their detection system. So if somebody would come in that door, break in that door, the analytics from the video would be the alarm instead of, an alarm.
Sure. All right. Next slide here. Again, we're talking about AI, and this kind of just wraps up the technology in video motion detection, license plate readers, facial weapon gun detection, people tracking. So there's nothing really surprising here. But are there things that are on this list that you think are so far advanced right now that they're not in the mainstream and that you're looking forward to? I know Paul Rothman, the editor who put this study together, he spent several days at CES and saw several AI-related technologies and analytics based for physical security. So he says there's new stuff coming down the pike. What do you guys see?
I think
the missing. Oh, go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
You go first, Matt, please.
What I think, and I agree with all these, Steve. The couple of new ones that have just come up in the last few years, drone detection is, those systems need to be very AI centric in order to do it appropriately. So drone or anti-drone detection systems using AI. And another one of our partners, Magos, has radars that use AI to be able to do a better job at tracking, detecting and tracking people for different applications around critical infrastructure, data centers, what have you. Great technology that integrators should be looking at and how to augment systems because cameras don't do so well with rain and fog and certain precarious weather conditions. And with AI and radar, in addition to cameras and other technologies, your level of detection and less false false positives go down and detection goes way up. So. And go ahead, John.
Yes, thanks, Matt. Very good. Steve, I think, we're going to see some outside influences from the industry here. And one of the partners we work with at Salesforce.com created an app for an AI bot for their CRM, or an agent for their CRM called Agent Force. And they were able to integrate that with their incident management platform. And now when they get a door propped or door forced anywhere around the world, and a guard would be typing the incident management report that the door has been reset in their Tokyo tower on the 17th floor, you'd be worried about spelling mistakes and time. Agent Force is doing all this work. So true AI that has learned the system, learned when the Lenel on-guard system resets and the door is reset and safe. So that true use of AI that I've seen working. They've been able to intake more incidents, solve more incidents, and have built an ROI that saved a few $1 million.
Very cool. All right, and we'll close out the tech look right here with, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but top 5 cloud-based and subscription-based services. Again, a whole landscape we weren't at 10 years ago with VSaaS and ASaaS and alarm monitoring and combining physical security with cyber and network monitoring. So these are all important because now that we've taken technology to the edge, IoT technology, you got to be able to secure it. So things we talk about is you got to secure your security system first and then worry about the devices. I thought this was interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So again, we've got a couple more left here. We'll go through, what are your firm's top performing commercial vertical markets? Industrial manufacturing and corporate buildings, seem to be top of mind every year. Education as well, government and municipalities and healthcare. So these are the top 5. Any arguments with any of those?
No.
One you don't see there is retail.
Yeah, I think
it's way down the list.
Yeah, or compressing. I think there's less retail stores, less branch banks. So I would agree with that. I would agree with how the report reads.
Yeah, good. All right. So here are the things what's keeping you up at night? Uncertainty is rampant in America. Companies are questioning every move. Keeping up with what concerns our customers is crucial. I'm concerned the average residential customer does not value a security alarm anymore. A doorbell camera seems to be their security answer. Higher prices and reduction of construction will significantly impact our business. Hopefully, there will be no import tariffs, as this will likely spike inflation. You guys want to add anything to this list that you're hearing from your customers or clients or cohorts?
Yeah. So my board asks me at the beginning of every year what keeps me up at night, and there are two big things, Steve and Matt. First is the tech stack of each of our clients is becoming more complex.
Sure.
And partnering with them to stay ahead of that, to have solutions for them, I think would be number one. The number two thing is when we looked at the Megatrends report, we saw the evolution of the channel. And a lot of these new entrants that are selling AI or subscription services are skipping the integrator and the dealer and the channel and going direct to the practitioner. And I think it's on the integrator to make sure they stay certified, trained, they got their ISO 27001 in line, or their SOC 2, or something that's going to continue to help them create value so that the practitioner wants things to stay through the channel. But we've seen an increasing number of software companies, technology companies trying to sell direct to the practitioner.
Matt, what concerns the PSA congregation?
The biggest concern for PSA is just the consolidation in the industry, right? We have a limited membership and exclusive membership, and fortunately or unfortunately, they tend to be high value targets for acquisition because they, some of the best in the industry. So, we've got to keep our eyes on how to bring in new members to PSA and help them grow their organizations. So that's our major challenge right now. See, we have a few questions and only a couple minutes left, Steve.
Yeah. Let's see what we got here.
I like this one down. Do you mind if I read it off?
No, you guys pick out the ones you want. Go ahead.
So, John, this would be a good one for you. What are the best certs for those newer to the industry? If you were new in this industry, what would you recommend an integrator go to for certification? Other than the obvious manufacturer certification, the project management, SICC, things like that?
Yeah. So if I was a new project manager in the industry, I would get involved with my CSPM, my Certified Security Project Management. It's a differentiator. It's a standard. And I just don't say it because we're the only integrator in the world that has all of our project managers certified. If I was a technician or a systems engineer, I would get the Security Industry Cyber Certification, the SICC, and that'll differentiate you and stay with you for your career. And that's outside of product certs. Those are two that I get involved with quickly. They'll take you far through the industry and put you a step ahead of your coworkers.
What about you, Matt?
Yeah, I would agree 100% with what John said. So those are there's all kinds of ancillary ones, but I would focus on those first. There is another question here about let's see, how do integrators deal with CAD drawings needed for submittals? That's from one of the security consultants in the industry.
I'm happy to jump in there, Matt.
Yeah.
When that consultant, and there's so many good consultants out there, when they give you that specification and you get that project, the right thing to do is build your as-builts. Make your drawings before you start that project.
Right.
And as there's changes on the projects or updates, as there will, you make your changes. So a strong PM is going to get that from the CAD department and have to get back to the CAD department each week that they've made these changes to the job. So when you're done that job within a week, you should be ready to turn your as-built into that consultant. And I'm sure there's some really good consultants on this call. I know some of the best we work with hold us to that. They want that submission package and as-built within a week of job completion.
Yeah, that's
great question.
All right, I think we're going to have to end it there, guys. So I want to thank Johnny Moravsky and Matt Barnett. I mean, couldn't get two better folks to join in our panel today. This was very enlightening. I want to thank everybody who attended. We had a good crowd. And of course, we want to thank our sponsors, Napco DMP, Dorking, Spico, Viking, Telguard, Camden, SecLock, Traca, and COPS Monitoring.